Because self-hosted WordPress isn't a simple sign up and login service, it can sometimes be a little confusing actually knowing where to start. The plus side of this, however, is that we have a number of options when it comes to actually beginning to build our website. Hi, I'm Ryan, and I'm so glad you've joined us at the Learning Hub. In this lesson, we're going to look at a number of things you need to consider when getting started with WordPress. As well as these technical steps, there are some practical tools you can use to ensure you begin on the right foot. Throughout this lesson, I'll be referencing a number of different choices you need to make as you plan your website project. The Elementor blog has some amazing articles that'll point you in the right direction, so make sure you take advantage of these. Before you dive headfirst into building your website, there's some practical steps that will ensure you have a clear picture of what you're setting out to achieve. A great way to begin your website project is by understanding your website structure. What pages does your website need to have? What will be the purpose of these pages? Start with a visual flowchart. Use an app or a piece of paper, it really doesn't matter. Begin with your home page and then start to outline the other pages you're going to include. It's important to think through the functionality of each page. Don't be too concerned with how you're going to implement it at this point. It's more important to know what your website needs. You'll be able to find a solution that fits later on when you go choosing your theme and plugins. It's important to also be realistic. If this is your first website build, don't overcomplicate things. Once you have a clear idea of your website's page structure, it's important to consider how you're going to build your website's page layouts. If you're building a blog or a simple business website, a fitting theme can be the easiest solution. If, however, you're looking for full control over your website, then this is where a website builder such as Elementor Pro would be a great investment. One of the big decisions you're going to need to make, if you haven't already, is selecting your website's domain name. Your domain name should clearly represent your website, as this is what people will type in to access your site. Domain prices vary depending on the extension you choose, and usually will need to be renewed every 1 or 2 years. To register your domain, you can do this using any domain registrar. One thing to note here is that there are a number of website hosting platforms that are also domain registrars. If this is your first website, you might opt for this just to keep things simple. We'll talk more about hosting shortly. Once you have a clear plan of what your website's going to include, it's now time to work out where you're going to begin to build it. There are a couple of options when it comes to building with WordPress. You can build your website on a local environment, or you can build it directly on your website hosting platform. Working with a local environment means you're building your website on your computer. The website won't be accessible to other internet visitors, only you. Working locally is also normally much faster, as you're not relying on internet speed. One thing to consider here, however, is that you're going to need a plan to migrate your website once you're ready to take it live. There's a number of plugins that will help with this, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. To get started working locally, you're first going to need to set up your environment. There are a number of free tools that will help you get up and running fairly quickly. Apps such as Desktop Server, XAMPP, and Local will all do the job well, basically creating a virtual web server on your computer. Once you have one of these installed, you can go through and add your new local website and begin building. Another option for building your website is to do it directly on your web host. If you're still unsure about which website host to go with, be sure to check out the list of recommended ones linked in this article. Often, whether you have a domain name or not, website hosting platforms will provide you with a temporary domain, allowing you direct access to your new website. This is what you use to build and test your site until you're ready to go live. We'll talk more about pointing your domain to your hosting in a later lesson. If you purchase your domain with your hosting, you'll often find that your domain is already pointing to your website. In this case, Elementor users can take advantage of the Coming Soon maintenance mode. With maintenance mode turned on and a little tweaking, you can show your website visitors, say, a Coming Soon page and hide what you're working on until you're ready to launch. Some website hosting platforms include what's called a staging environment. This is basically a way to work on a copy of your website while the changes are not visible to the public. When you're finished building your site, your hosting provider will allow you to push your staging site to your live site. Sometimes when working with a web host, live or staging, you might find yourself needing to access the file system of your website. This is basically like how you would browse files on your computer, but on your hosting server instead. To do this, you need what's called an FTP client. Using an FTP client and the credentials found within your hosting provider, you can log into your server, browse, add, edit, and delete files as necessary. And that's it for this lesson. You now have all the tools you need to get started on your website success journey. As always, if you haven't yet, make sure you join Elementor's vibrant community and check out the Academy and blog. Catch you in lesson 7.